So welcome, I'm Kathy Bresler, and I am the founder and consciousness concierge of ALTAR, which is a social and spiritual gathering space in Chicago. We started as kind of strictly a place for women, and intergenerational women to gather and to learn and grow and share. And we were all set to launch in March of 2018 in our beautiful space, which you can see a little bit of behind me.
It
like
is
1,000 square feet, and it's multi-purpose, and we were like ready to go. And then of course, COVID hit, and we pivoted to doing Zoom events, and we did our first one in April, and I think we did over 100 during the year. And, you know, as they say, hindsight is 2020, and what that allowed, you know, even in the midst of, I mean, I would say that was sort of a muck-to-magic story for us at ALTAR, right? In that it could have been, it was devastating in a way, but it enabled us to include women from all over the country in our community and in our programs. And it encouraged me to create a custom app for the community so that we can continue to gather virtually forever, and to be able to have hybrid events where we've got roomers and Zoomers at the same time. And truthfully, we would not be sitting here tonight if it wasn't for those Zoom days, because it was because Julie Mayer, who is here tonight, was like a loyal supporter of ALTAR and of me. And she told Wendi about a program that we're doing. And Wendi sent me an email, like just sort of like a mundane kind of glitchy, like there was something, she didn't get the replay or something. And I responded, and I was very intrigued by her, you know, signature thing. And I went on her website, and I was all over, and I noticed her blog, and like that day or that week or something, she had just published a blog, and the title of which was Alter Your Reality. Invitation, ALTAR. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to meet her. And I read all the things and watched her video about the book, and I emailed her. And as it turned out, she had done the same thing and had written an email to me saying we should meet, and just never sent it. So,
and I did send you an email that said you should read my article about altars, but I don't think you got it. But it was so weird that we had that synergy. Yeah.
Yes. And so we had a Zoom tea that lasted like, I don't know, 2.5 hours. And it was very much like, you know, those magical conversations where you meet someone new that feels like an old friend. And it was just very, truly magical. And it was actually in that conversation that the idea for the Soul Salon conversations emerged, and the idea for the course. And so I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to have Wendi as the first conversation in this series. And, you know, my hope is really that this becomes like a gathering opportunity, you know, kind of like the old time salons where you got together and you talked about things that mattered. And it was artists and writers and poets and thinkers, and that we maybe use a soulful lens, but that it's an opportunity for us to be in conversation and to spotlight women who inspire me, but you know, who inspire all of us. And so that's kind of the genesis of this. And I just want to backtrack for a second. I'm a little excited. And so I want to just invite everyone to arrive and kind of take a breath. And I want to share a poem that I feel like is very, very emblematic of the spirit of ALTAR, and also of the spirit of this conversation and of Wendi's work. So maybe just settle in and take a breath, and close your eyes if you want to, and just take in these words. It's from the chapter in the book is called Flame of Creativity, which feels very appropriate. And the poem itself is called Living Revolution. And it says, we often fear that the revolution needed is too big, that we are too small. But all that is required is that you step into the truth of your life and speak it, write it, paint it, dance it. That you shine your light on your truth for the world to see. And as hundreds, then thousands, then millions do this, each sparking the courage of yet more, suddenly we have a world alight with truth. We are shifting ourselves, we are shifting the world, dancing her into a new orbit. We are filling in the space where our voices were silenced, filling in the blanks where our images have been lacking. We are weaving her story into reality, reaching beyond history into new ways of being and seeing. We are the bridge between worlds. And that is by Lucy Pierce.
That made me cry. That was so beautiful. Oh, doesn't take much, but wow.
It just feels like, you know, my intention for ALTAR and for this growing community of women to gather in soul quenching sanctuary and delight. So I don't know. I'm like a little verklempt from just like being here. It's really great. So Wendi, I don't know. I feel like we finished each other's sentences. Our lives had such parallels. And I was so like inspired by your story, but also it struck me as like both unique and universal, right? It resonated for my own journey. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 38, and that was kind of my muck-to-magic, one of my muck-to-magic journeys. And so, yeah, I welcome. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about how this came to be for you, or.
Well, you know, if some of you read my blog, the one I wrote about the altar was, I have a book called From Muck to Magic, and I've been asking spirit, God, goddess, whoever you believe in, I've been asking to fly my work out into the world to connect with like-hearted, soul-connected women who can lift it up. And that's one of the things I really miss about an ad agency. Probably one of the only things was the collaboration and not having to do all the heavy lifting yourself. So I had said this prayer, I had created this altar, and I wrote the words, let the magic fly. And very shortly after, Julie told me about the class she had taken with Soul Collage. I looked at your website and it was like, bang, that feels right. So I like really followed my intuition. And then the thing that really struck me when we talked was like, you know, like kind of, it felt like soul sisters. And we immediately launched into talking about our mothers. And it felt like we had the same mothers, you know, and it was just so fascinating how the universe, like, I think the more that we are who we really are, the more we find others who we connect with. And I used to think you had to hang on to even the most stale relationships because you'd known them forever and you had history. But now I find you can meet somebody in 5 minutes and feel like you've always known them. And I feel that way with some of you on here, you know, there's that instant connection. So I'm just really grateful and happy that we met and that you've created this beautiful opportunity for all of us.
All right, I don't know if you can hear, there's the L tracks, all right, kind of outside the door. And so I hear the L very loudly. You may as well. And I've decided actually, and we're going to start, this is the debut, but I've been thinking about it for a while, that like, I want to have a little ritual at altar where every time the L goes by, every time the train goes by, we just use that as an opportunity for like something that we're ready to let go of, some care, some worry, some, you know, some burden, something. We just imagine like putting it on one of the train cars and letting it like be carried away. And that's something that I actually, a practice that I learned from the Marys and about like a different kind of train. But I thought, you know, I'm going to integrate that into altar, and it will just become a practice and a way that we, again, like make a little magic out of the muck of the loud train going by when we're trying to record and talk to each other. So I invite you to do that tonight as it happens, and hopefully it won't be too disruptive. And I think, you know, I think back to what you were saying, Wendi, like my goal, like when you're connecting soul to soul, right? Like when you show up kind of without agenda and without pretense, and you're just connecting on that soul level, so much of the detail like kind of falls away, and you just enter into this conversation that is really nourishing and kind of depthful, even though we imagine that that takes time to get there. My experiences, particularly with women of a certain, you know, orientation, like it's so rich and fast, and sometimes you know, you don't know anything about the details of their life, but you have this really intense connection. And it's my hope that that is something that can happen in the cohorts that go through different classes at Altar and in the app, which I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but there's a way in which it's like it's almost like our own private Instagram, Facebook chat, like community where there's no algorithms, and it's very safe, and you can really connect in that way that Wendi and I connected over Zoom, you know, across a variety of media. So anyway, I think without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit more depth about your particular story. I know everybody will relate to it and be inspired by it, and then you know, tell us a little bit about the upcoming class, and then we'll open it up for questions and conversation and whatever is on people's minds. I really would love this to be interactive. So,
all right, let me take a couple breaths here. I'm kind of excited. I feel like a kid on Christmas or something, even though I'm Jewish and shouldn't use that analogy, I guess. Okay. All right. So first of all, I just want to say I'm so happy to see all of your beautiful faces and feel your souls here. And I know we're all kind of zoomed out, so the fact that so many of you came really touches me. And I want to start with a question, and I can't really see you all if you raise your hands, but I'm going to assume you're going to, because I think it's a question we can all answer. And it's this: have you ever been stuck in the muck? How many of you have been stuck in the muck of worry or fear or anxiety, or the muck of reinvention or midlife muck, or empty nest muck, or not enoughism muck, or what if this, or coulda, woulda, shoulda muck? There's a million kinds of muck in the world, and I think we've all been stuck in some of it, especially if you've been on planet Earth during the last year and a half. We've had more muck than we ever could have imagined. So the thing is, we really can't do much about it. Muck happens, but we can't change that. But I do believe we can change the way we look at it. And when we manage to do that, it changes everything. So what I'm going to do right now is tell you about a little bit of my muck and my muck-to-magic story, in hopes of it inspiring you to look at your story in a new way. So here goes. Whoops. Oh God, this is what I was afraid of. Okay. Once upon a time, this is, talk about muck. The gods are just fucking with us now, aren't they? Excuse me. All right. Once upon a time, I had it all. The big office, the big salary, and a really, really big job title. I was the only female senior vice president, creative director at one of the largest advertising agencies in Los Angeles. I was in charge of creating award-winning advertising, gazillion-dollar commercials for brands like Acura and Honda, kind of like Don Draper, but without the martinis or the cigarettes. It was the kind of job I dreamed of in my 20s, but in my 40s, it looked a lot better than it felt. It felt like I had to zip up my true self in order to become execuwoman. My real self wanted to get out. I felt like I was imprisoned, but my bank account wouldn't stand for it. I had a small child at home. I had aging parents who were struggling with their health and had big problems with their finances. And my soulmate husband, Will, happens to be an entrepreneur, which I don't know if you know this, but that's French for no health plan. So we all really needed my job. But at 50, I lost that job and found myself sobbing in my backyard. They said it was cutbacks, but it felt more like ageism and sexism to me. But whatever you call it, I was stuck in the muck of worry, fear, and now what? So I'm a big asker. I believe in asking the universe, and especially when we're so stuck in the muck and in so much fear and anguish. I said a prayer in my little backyard in Westwood, California, near the 405 freeway, and I asked the universe, am I too old to reinvent myself? Please give me a sign. And I went for a walk with my dog Lucky in the neighborhood. And when I came home, I got a sign, all right. I just didn't know what it meant. There in my backyard, without a pond, without a fountain, were hundreds of red dragonflies. I'd never seen a red dragonfly. I had no idea that they traveled in mass, but there they were, whirling and twirling over our outdoor umbrella like a dragonfly ballet. I was so excited. I felt like a kid seeing a merry-go-round for the first time. My heart was leaping. And those dragonflies just had this light and this energy that was stirring. And I just had never felt anything like it. They stayed for 4 hours the first day and came back for 3 more days. By that point, I thought, maybe I'm a little cray-cray, you know, like, is something wrong with me? They would come for 4 hours. My husband would come home from work and they'd be gone. And I think it felt like I was hallucinating or something. So I went next door to my neighbor, Julie, who's here tonight, and I asked her to come over and make sure I wasn't seeing things. Julie's very grounded, and I'm not always so grounded, but she confirmed that I was not hallucinating, and there were indeed hundreds of red dragonflies in my backyard. So at that point, I did what anyone would do. I started Googling dragonflies like crazy. And when I did, I discovered something I'd never heard before. I read that dragonflies spend most of their life crawling in the muck at the bottom of a pond. They stay down there for up to 4 years. They don't have wings. They're just these creepy, crawly insects who shed their skin and grow new skin up to 15 times down in the muck. And then when seemingly random day, the dragonfly crawls out of the muck onto a reed or rock into the sunlight and takes her first breath of fresh air, and her wings unfurl. It turns out the whole time she was in the muck, she was growing her magical wings. Well, I was blown away by this. I asked for a sign, and boy, did I get one. I believe those dragonflies came to tell me that you're a dragonfly. Can I just ask you guys, is there some mark going across all my paintings? No? Okay, sorry. I just see that. It's a little distracting. Right in the middle of my story. Okay, so I realized that the dragonflies had come to tell me, you're a dragonfly. You've been growing your wings while crawling in the muck. And it was so touching to me because they don't even get their wings till later in life. So it was as if they were saying, don't worry, it's never too late to soar. And this experience, this mystical, magical experience, gave me so much hope and encouragement and made me feel like I'm not alone in this world, that there's a force beyond me that's guiding things, supporting things. And it just made my heart feel so good. And that really would have been enough, but it was just the beginning. Everywhere I went, I started seeing dragonflies. It was insane. I'd be driving along Sunset Boulevard. A dragonfly would drive across my windshield. I was walking on Hollywood Boulevard. There were dragonflies. One day I was going to the dentist in Beverly Hills, and there was a big fat red dragonfly right on the street in front of me. I mean, what was it doing? Going to Rodeo Drive shopping? It was nuts. Then they started showing up on every freeway. And, you know, in LA, we have a lot of freeways. There were dragonflies on the 10, on the 405, on the 110, everywhere. So I felt there was this force or this message that they wanted to give me, but I really wasn't sure what was going on. And then the dragonfly coup de grace was when my husband and I were up in Ojai, California. For those of you who don't know, Ojai is this magical little town about an hour and a half from LA, where I'm so lucky I live now. But at the time, my husband and I were at the Ojai Valley Inn, and we were going to lunch across the lawn. And there, under this gigantic, majestic oak tree, was another swarm of red dragonflies. And I said to Will, okay, that's it. These dragonflies are trying to recruit me. They're after me. I think they know that I'm a copywriter and a branding specialist, and they want me to get their story out into the world. And as you can see, that's exactly what I'm doing. I was so inspired by the dragonflies, and I felt like this calling that I was meant to uplift and inspire women with their story to help others change their stories, to transform their muck into magic, and to pay the dragonfly magic forward. And it's crazy to think that a bug could be your life coach, but that's what it feels like. And for a very long time, I was wondering, how should I get their story out into the world? You know, the way life works, I used to think it was muck to magic, but the longer I'm on this earth, the more I realize that magic and muck are coexisting much the way that light and dark are. So here I had this great epiphany, this great calling, this great sense of my mission. And then I found myself back down in the muck, kind of like that painting. You can't see her, but all over her head is doubt and fear and worry. That's how I felt. It turns out that losing my job at 50 was not the worst thing that ever happened to me. Almost losing my only child to addiction was. And I found myself in the deepest muck you can imagine. If any of you have dealt with addiction, you know what I'm talking about. It's paralyzing and overwhelming, and nothing in life prepares you for that kind of muck. But I was also very frustrated because I had this kind of revelation, and then I felt paralyzed. I knew I needed to create something from that experience, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know how. All I could do was be like the dragonflies and crawl around in the muck and feel my feelings and accept and surrender. And it was so uncomfortable. But again, being a big asker, I did, while I was in the muck, I asked the universe, please show me how I can share my story with others. And one day, it was kind of like the dragonflies. I was just sitting in my chair, frustrated that I couldn't come up with anything. And something, one seemingly random day, some urge, some imperceptible calling got me over to my computer where I'm sitting right now. I sat down and I received what I could only call a spiritual download. It was like these words just flew into my head, maybe on the wings of dragonflies, but I received this poem, and it starts, have you ever been stuck? So stuck in the muck with the yuck in the gut that you thought, what the muck? And it goes on from there. Somebody recently said my book is like, oh, the places you'll go for grown-ass women. And I love that description. But I received this poem, and then I asked the universe where I could take an intuitive art class. I had painted before, but not for a long time. And I was guided to this teacher who's here tonight. I love her so much, Lynn Latorno. And she taught a class in intuitive painting. She's an amazing artist and teacher. And she helped me connect with my inner muse, and we would meditate and paint. And what I did each week was I set the intention to paint one stanza of the poem in each class. And so I would ask Spirit, how do I paint fear? How do I paint worry? How do I paint joy or gratitude? And one by one, the paintings came through me. So the whole book was so magical, the way it came to me and the way I found my publisher. And there was a lot of magic that grew out of the muck. And I'm so grateful for it. But then it was like my soul said, we need to do more. We need to get this story out in another way. That book I call a storybook to help change the stories we tell ourselves. And then I was shown that I should create a class. And, you know, I've resisted for a very long time. I don't know about any of you, but there's this voice in my head that says, who are you to teach? What do you know? You're not blah, 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 blah. I call that voice Edna, my inner critic. But through the years, healers and psychics and channels have said, you're a teacher, you need to step into that. So I finally did. And it was really when I met Kathy. We were talking and I was looking at all the great classes she was offering. And I said, you know, I've really wanted to do a class. And we came up with the Soul Salon idea that we were talking about. And then we kind of talked about the class. And so I'm so excited. You guys are the first people that I'm speaking about it out loud, other than my husband and my therapist, and a few friends that are sick of listening to me probably. And ta-da, here's the name of the class is Creating Magic from Muck, a 28-day practice to bring more magic and miracles into your life. And this came out of the fact that, I mean, I have had a lot of muck, and I won't even go into all of it because I want this to be a happy day. But there's been a lot of muck, but I've also managed to create a lot of magic out of it. And, you know, they say, teach what you know. And I know how to ask and manifest magic. And I have called in so many miraculous things right in my own backyard. If you read my blog, I have stories that I've written that they don't even seem true, kind of like the dragonflies in my backyard. So this class is really inspired by practices and processes that I've used to transform muck into magic. And like I said, I think those dragonflies are my life coach. And through the years, I have learned many profound but very simple lessons from them. And some of those lessons are the foundation of this class. I call them dragonflying lessons. And the way the class is going to be structured, I didn't want, you know, I feel like we all have had so much Zoom and so much information and so much heaviness. I wanted this class to feel as light and as playful as a dragonfly. So the structure is a little different. Each week on Mondays, we fly out a video to tell you about the dragonflying lesson of the week. So I talk about the lesson, it's a 5-minute video, talk about the lesson, and then I share some personal stories of how this lesson has played into my life and how you can apply it to yours. And then I've created like workbook exercises that you get each week to go with the lesson in the form of a PDF. You simply print out the PDF, and I must say, the sheets are very fun. It's not like boring school kind of stuff. Every exercise or process comes with one of my paintings and sort of a joyful description of the process. So you can print them out. You could simply use a pen and do the, you know, fill it out. Each one is designed to take 10 or 15 minutes for the daily exercises. And there's special bonus for the weekend that you can stretch out over a couple days if you want. And, you know, if you miss one, you can do it the next day. This is not like brain surgery. This class is about leaving your mind behind and tapping into your creativity and your intuition, which I think are the most powerful tools for transformation that we have. So each week you get the lesson, you get the PDFs, you do it. I recommend putting them in a folder. Maybe if you want, use some art supplies, you know, color them, cut out pictures. I love glitter. What can I say? Whatever you want to do to make it fun and make it your own. And I'll take you through what the dragonflying lessons are so you kind of get an idea. So in week 1, the first dragonflying lesson is Be One with the Muck. And that week, we're going to crawl around in some of those uncomfortable feelings and old stories and habitual beliefs that keep us stuck in the muck. And we're going to look at them and bring them out into the light. And through that process, I'll bet you discover some real gifts hiding in your struggles. So that's the theme of week 1. Week 2 is dragonflying lesson number 2, nourish yourself. And when dragonflies are crawling around in the muck, they eat everything in sight. It's very nourishing down there. Bugs, I don't know if that's on your diet, but I don't recommend us stuffing our faces. This is more about feeding your soul. So the practices and exercises for week 2 are about self-love, self-nurturing, and self-acceptance, kind of like the hug in my painting. Week 3, dragonflying lesson number 3 is follow your flutter. So when I told you about the dragonfly, that something urges her to climb out of the muck into the light, it's like an inner instruction, an instinct. You could call it your intuition, the voice of your heart. I call it your flutter. It's that little feeling, that yes that you get inside your heart. And the exercises and practices for week 3 are about creating the space to really listen to your flutter, to pay attention to it, to start to trust it, and ways to use it in your life. And I don't know, this is really important to me. I feel like the best decisions I've made in my life were when I followed my flutter instead of my brain. I mean, I got engaged to my husband in less than 2 months, and we've been married for 35 years. I decided to move out of LA after seeing a house for 15 minutes. Like, I'm big on following the flutter. So We've got exercises to help and support us in that process. And dragon flying lesson number 4, I call this the Las Vegas dragonfly, is let go, let magic. When dragonflies are in the muck, they keep shedding old skin and growing new skin, and that is their process for growing their wings. And I feel that we have a lot of letting go to do as well. So some of the exercises are about letting go of our new story and creating new ones. And some of them are what I talked about a little before, about asking the universe, about setting intentions, affirmation, manifestation, all those delicious things that help you call in your heart's desire. So that is basically the 4 sections. I kind of call all this the way of the dragonfly, because it's all things that I've learned from them. And it's really changed my life. Bugs have changed my life. What can I tell you? So if you're feeling a little flutter inside and might be interested in this class, let's see, today is June 2nd. It starts on the 14th. The first dragon flying lesson lands on Monday, June 14th. That's when you get your first video in PDF. And then what we're going to do on Wednesdays is have a little Zoom get together. We're calling it, wait for it, Winging It with Wendi Wednesdays. You can tell I'm a copywriter. So basically this will be a check-in and a way for us to share our journey with one another, to talk about our muck, talk about our magic, and lift each other up as we grow these new wings. And I don't know if you know this, but a fetch is the word that describes a gathering of dragonflies. It's like the dragonfly equivalent of a gaggle of geese or pride of lions. So my hope is that we will create this fetch to help ourselves and support each other as we start to transform the muck of our lives into more magic and miracles. So I hope that I explained this well. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. And I just am really excited to share this work and this play with you, and to help you discover what magic is growing in your muck. And here's a little shameless self-promotion. If you want to read my blog or find out more about my book, it's on wendiknox.com. And that's my story. So now let's see, I have to figure out how to stop sharing. Wait a minute. Oh, escape. That's right. Escape. Close this.
Stop share.
There.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. That was great. I just want to add that we're going to do something kind of new, or I guess we did a little test, but for the class, we're also going to have a private section of the app, which is super easy. It's free. You can download it. It's called ALTAR-net, in Google or Apple. And yes. So there'll be a special private group, sort of like a Facebook group, I guess, in the app for the class, and a feed where everyone can just talk to each other throughout the 28 days, and Wendi will post things and you guys can share with each other and kind of, keep the conversation going day by day, and in addition to the individual worksheets and the weekly check-ins. So I hope that will, it's kind of like, it's something that I think is a added value, and I hope that it ends up, creating this connection in a way that, we're all over the country. And that we feel, like an actual fetch. I love that.
A fetching fetch.
A fetching fetch.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, so somebody asked about how to sign up. And I think we put it in the chat. It's basically, if you go to altar, ALTAR community.com, you can get on our mailing list and you'll get all the announcements of all the doings at ALTAR. And also you can see, I think it's on the homepage right now, but you can also just, there's a button at the top that says register for classes or something, and you can see everything that's on offer.
Oh, some hands, Barbara. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. I think this is good now. Well, I just wanted to add a couple of comments about Wendy's book too. If by chance you have not had a chance to touch the book, it is such a tactile, heartfelt connection when the book arrives. The way that it is wrapped, the way that the glitter is expressed on the cover page, and also, of course, the contents and the art. And then there was a little enclosure of some cards and a notepad. It's such a delicious experience to have opened her package. And it's just a beautiful, sweet, sweet book that you want to just kind of keep it next to your heart.
Julie.
Hi, so I just wanted to say that I'm so happy that I somehow brought the two of you, Kathy and Wendi, together.
So are we.
And Wendi, I've known you for years and I know your story, but every time you tell it, it's magical all over again. I can't hear it too many times or look at your book too much. It's such a beautiful story. And Kathy, I'm so excited. I'm going to see you, I think, next week because I'm coming to the pop-up. So
I heard.
yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. And I just, I love what the two of you are doing, the way you're bringing women together and uplifting and bringing a community of, like-minded or like-hearted women together to share. And I love the poem that you read at the beginning, Kathy, because I feel like that really expresses what I'm trying to say in not such a good way, but thank you for all that you're doing.
Kathy is creating an amazing community. And I think we have some more questions too. Is that okay if we?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Lynn? Lynn's my art teacher and friend.
Well, I just want to say that I'm so delighted that it's manifesting. Your magical journey is manifesting in this direction and that you're creating this class. And this book is really a delight and is very real and very tender, very heartfelt, very feminine, really. Yeah. And I loved working with Wendi every week. What would be revealed next and what would be revealed next on this journey. It just kept on growing and happening. So I highly recommend everyone take a look at the book. And I love Wendi. And
thank you. I feel the same way.
I'm so happy that this is happening. So
invite anybody.
Kim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to just share that I found your book in a store in Ojai just a couple of weeks ago, and I instantly was just in tears. It resonated so quickly, just so instantly with everything going on inside me.
Thank you. Well,
Got it. I turned my girlfriend on Wendi, who's Wendi, right? Resnick.
Wait, where's Wendi? Hi, Wendi.
And she has been a butterfly lover since she was a young girl.
Dragonfly.
I mean, what did I say? Butterfly? Dragonfly. I'm sorry.
I do that all the time.
It's been her, like spirit animal or whatever her whole life, I think. And we encountered them on a trip together in Thailand, hundreds of them whirling above us. And it was just one of those moments that she raised her arms to the sky. I took a picture and then I painted it for her. And so we kind of have our own, well, she for sure has a journey with dragonflies. And when I saw that, I just broke down and knew she was just going to lose it when she saw it. And so we've been gushing over it ever since. So.
Oh God, you guys, they both wrote me the most beautiful letters at a time when I was just going through a whole new brand of muck, and I received those letters and then I cried, and you know, nothing means more to me than people that cry over my work. What can I tell you? And I have to say, Kim is the most exquisite artist. I saw the painting that she made for Wendi, and you guys would not believe it. You should put your website in this chat, Kim, so people can see. She paints light like nothing I've ever seen. It is so illuminating, touching, inspiring. It is so beautiful, your work, and I'd love everybody to see it.
Truly a magical group, and I'm so delighted to have everyone here and to have Wendi. I'm so grateful for your friendship and for your willingness to like dive in and experiment with me and let this be your maiden voyage, and like it's ALTAR's maiden voyage, and we're like, you know, flying together. And I'm just so excited, and I'm excited that we have like at least one sign up. So there we go. You know, one of the other like kinships I feel with Wendi is that I lead a women's group called Lift, and some of the members are here tonight. I'm very grateful for that. And it stands for Living in Flow Together. We've been for like 8 years. And when we were in person, we would hold hands at the end of each session, and we would pass from one woman to the next. I would look to the woman to the right of me in her eyes, and I would say, that which is right is unfolding. And it would go all the way around the circle. And it was like our affirmation that like, no matter what is happening, it is for us, and that there is, you know, magic in the muck. And so tonight I drew one of Tosha Silver's new cards from her deck, just as a little, as I lit my altar candle.
And you are the goddess of shameless self-promotion. I love that.
And I drew sanctity, and it said, it has Hanuman on it, and it said, through offering, even the most mundane problem can become a sacrament. And I thought that was just very beautiful and apropos. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and I hope
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.